The mining laser cut through the asteroid like butter. Jinwoo Park watched the display screens from his captain's chair aboard the Daehan Explorer. His crew had been working in the outer solar system for 3 months now, collecting rare metals from the asteroid belt near Pluto. "Captain, we're getting some strange readings," said So-Min Lee from her engineering station. She was a small woman with sharp eyes who never missed anything wrong with the ship's systems. "There's something inside this rock that shouldn't be there." Jinwoo walked over to look at her screen. The asteroid looked normal from the outside, but the scans showed empty spaces inside. Big empty spaces arranged in patterns that didn't happen naturally. "Hyun-soo, what do you think?" Jinwoo called to their science officer. Hyun-soo Kim was the smartest person on the ship when it came to figuring out mysteries. Hyun-soo looked at the data and frowned. "This isn't natural, Captain. Someone built something inside this asteroid a very long time ago. Maybe thousands of years." The crew gathered around the main screen. Yoonji Choi, their communications officer, pointed at the patterns. "Look at these shapes. They're too regular to be random. And there are what look like power conduits running through the whole structure." Jinwoo nodded. This was exactly the kind of discovery that could change everything. "So-Min, can we get inside safely?" "I think so. The outer shell is just normal. Whatever's inside has been sealed away for a long time, but, Captain..." So-Min paused, looking worried. "Some of these readings suggest the thing inside is still active." "Still active after thousands of years?" Jinwoo asked. "The power levels are very low, but yes. Something in there is still running." Jinwoo thought for a moment. They were miners. Not explorers, but this was too important to ignore. "All right, let's cut a careful entry hole and send a probe in first. If it looks safe, we'll go in ourselves." The next hour was tense as they slowly cut through the rock. The asteroid was bigger than their ship, and whatever was inside took up most of the space. When they finally broke through, their probe's cameras showed them something amazing. The inside of the asteroid was hollow and filled with smooth metal walls covered in strange symbols. Lights flickered along the walls in patterns that seemed almost alive. In the center of the space was a tall cylinder made of the same metal, covered in more symbols that glowed with a soft blue light. "It's beautiful," whispered Yoonji. "It's also very old," said Hyun-soo, studying the probe's readings. "But the technology is far beyond anything we have on Earth. Look at these energy patterns. I don't understand how any of this works." Jinwoo made his decision. "We're going in. So-Min, bring us in close and extend the docking tube. Everyone suit up, just in case." 20 minutes later, the 4 of them floated through the docking tube into the ancient structure. The air inside was breathable, which was impossible but true. The gravity was Earth normal, which was also impossible but also true. "How is any of this working?" So-Min asked, checking her instruments. "There's no power source big enough to run all this, but everything is working perfectly." The cylinder in the center was covered in symbols that seemed to shift and change when they weren't looking directly at them. Hyun-soo approached it carefully, scanner in hand. "Captain, I'm reading massive energy buildups inside this thing. It's like it's waking up." Before Jinwoo could respond, Yoonji's equipment started beeping rapidly. "Captain, I'm picking up signals. Lots of them. They're coming from everywhere." "What kind of signals?" "Communications. Different types, different languages, but definitely communications, and they're all pointing toward this structure." The cylinder began to glow brighter. The symbols on the wall started moving faster, creating patterns that hurt to look at directly. So-Min checked her readings and went pale. "Captain, we need to leave. Now. This thing is building up to something big." But it was too late. The cylinder erupted in brilliant light, and suddenly, the small chamber was filled with a sound like thunder mixed with music. The walls around them became transparent, showing the black of space beyond. Except space wasn't black anymore. It was full of lights. Thousands of lights, arranged in patterns that definitely weren't natural. Ships. Enormous ships, some bigger than cities, arranged in perfect formations around them. "Oh," said Jinwoo calmly. I think we just activated something we weren't supposed to. The Dahan Explorer was now floating in the middle of what was clearly a massive space station. The asteroid they had been mining was gone, replaced by a docking bay that stretched further than they could see. And everywhere they looked, there were aliens. The aliens looked like giant insects made of crystal. They had 4 arms, 2 legs, and heads that moved in ways that made the humans feel dizzy. They were all staring at the small human ship with what might have been surprise. "Captain," Yunji said in a very quiet voice, "I'm receiving a communication request. Put it on screen." The main display flickered, then showed the face of one of the crystal insects. It spoke in a voice like breaking glass, but somehow the words were translated into Korean. "Unknown vessel. You have activated a Class 7 transit beacon without authorization. Identify yourselves immediately or be destroyed." Jinwoo straightened his uniform and stepped in front of the camera. "This is Captain Jinwoo Park of the Earth vessel Dahan Explorer. We apologize for any intrusion. We discovered what we now realize was your beacon by accident while conducting mining operations in our home system. We meant no harm and are willing to leave immediately if that's what you prefer." The alien stared at him for a long moment. Behind it, other crystal beings could be seen moving around in what looked like a command center. "You claim to be from a previously unknown species?" "Yes, sir. We are humans from the planet Earth. We're new to space travel and had no idea this beacon existed. Show us your star charts." Jinwoo nodded to Unji, who transmitted their navigation data. The aliens studied it for several minutes, talking among themselves in their glass-breaking language. Finally, the alien on screen spoke again. "You originate from a system that our charts show as uninhabited. Our charts show the same thing about this region of space," Jinwoo replied. "It seems we both have incomplete information." This caused a lot more talking among the aliens. Finally, a new voice came over the communications system, deeper and more commanding than the first. "I am First Admiral Krixtel of the Veltar Imperial Navy. You will be brought aboard our command ship for questioning. Any attempt to flee will result in your destruction." "Understood, Admiral. We'll comply fully. However, I should mention that we have injured crew members who may need medical attention." This wasn't true, but Jinwoo wanted to see how these aliens treated prisoners. "You are injured?" "Minor injuries from the beacon activation. Nothing serious, but we would appreciate medical assistance if you can provide it." There was another. "You will be tractored aboard. Medical personnel will be available." The communication ended. Moments later, their ship was grabbed by invisible forces and pulled toward one of the enormous vessels. "Captain," Somin said quietly, "why did you lie about injuries?" "I want to see what kind of people we're dealing with. Are they the type who help prisoners or the type who don't care? And if they're the type who don't care," Jinwoo checked his uniform again and made sure his hair was neat, "then we'll know something important about them. Either way, we represent all of humanity right now. Let's make a good impression." The ship shuddered as it was pulled into a docking bay the size of a football stadium. Through the windows, they could see hundreds of the crystal aliens watching them arrive. Most of them were carrying weapons. "Remember," Jinwoo told his crew, "we're diplomats now. Be polite, be honest, and don't show fear. These people have been traveling between stars probably longer than humans have existed. We can learn a lot from them." "What if they want to dissect us?" asked Hyunsu. "Then we'll politely ask them to be gentle," Jinwoo replied, which made everyone laugh despite the situation. The ship settled into the docking bay with a soft thud. Through the communication system, they heard Admiral Krixtel's voice again. "You will exit your vessel slowly, with your hands visible. Any sudden movements will be considered hostile." Jinwoo opened the airlock and stepped out first. The air in the docking bay was warm and smelled like metal and something that might have been flowers. Dozens of crystal aliens surrounded them, all pointing weapons at the small group of humans. Admiral Krixtel approached them. He was bigger than the others, and the crystals that made up his body were a deeper blue color. When he spoke, his voice created tiny music-like sounds. "You are the captain of this vessel?" "I am, Captain Jinwoo Park at your service. You mentioned injured crew members." Jinwoo looked embarrassed. "I apologize, Admiral. We're all fine. I wanted to test your intentions toward prisoners." In our culture, how you treat captives says a lot about your character. This clearly surprised the Admiral. Several of the other aliens made sounds that might have been laughter or might have been anger. You tested us. Yes, sir. And I'm happy to report that you passed. You immediately offered medical assistance to prisoners, which suggests you're honorable people. Admiral Crixtel stared at Jinwoo for a long time. Then he made a sound that was definitely laughter. You are either very brave or very stupid. The throne room was bigger than any building the humans had ever seen. The ceiling disappeared into darkness above them, and the walls were covered in crystals that sang when the light hit them. At the far end, on a throne made of what looked like compressed starlight, sat the Emperor. Emperor Zeftos was twice the size of Admiral Crixtel, and his crystal body contained more colors than seemed possible. When he moved, the light that came off him painted rainbows on the walls. Around the throne, dozens of other aliens stood in perfect rows, all watching the humans. "Approach," the Emperor commanded, and his voice made the whole room vibrate. Jinwoo led his crew forward, walking at a steady, calm pace. When they reached the proper distance, he stopped and gave a polite bow. "Your Majesty, I am Captain Jinwoo, Park of the Earth vessel Daehan Explorer. Thank you for agreeing to see us." The Emperor leaned forward on his throne. "You are the beings who activated the ancient beacon?" "Yes, Your Majesty. By accident, but yes. That beacon has been dead for over 10,000 years. How did you make it work?" Jinwoo looked at Hyunsu, who stepped forward. "Your Majesty, we were mining the asteroid that contained the beacon. Our equipment must have provided the energy it needed to activate. We had no idea what it was." "Mining?" asked one of the aliens, near the throne. "What were you mining for?" "Rare metals, sir. Elements we need for our space program. Iron, nickel, platinum, that sort of thing." The aliens all looked at each other. Finally, the Emperor spoke again. "You mine asteroids for basic metals?" "Yes, Your Majesty, we've been doing it for about 50 years now. It's much easier than digging them out of planets." So Min stepped forward slightly. "If I may ask, Your Majesty, how do your people obtain raw materials?" "We take them from conquered worlds," the Emperor said simply. So Min nodded as if this was perfectly reasonable. "That works too, though I imagine asteroid mining is more efficient in the long run. Less infrastructure needed, and you don't have to worry about local populations." The silence in the throne room was complete. Emperor Zeftos stared at the small human who had just casually critiqued the economic foundation of his empire. "You suggest our methods are inefficient?" "Oh no, Your Majesty, just different. I'm sure your way works fine for you. I was just thinking out loud about the energy costs involved in planetary occupation versus automated mining systems." Yunji was quietly recording everything, her equipment making soft beeping sounds. Several of the aliens noticed this and pointed their weapons at her. "What is that device?" demanded Admiral Crixtel. "Translation and recording equipment, sir," Yunji replied calmly. "We're making a record of this historic meeting. The first contact between our peoples should be preserved for both our histories. You assume you will survive to share this history?" Yunji looked genuinely puzzled. "Why wouldn't we survive? We haven't done anything wrong. We're just talking." Emperor Zeftos stood up from his throne. When he did, the light in the room changed and the humans could feel power radiating from him like heat from a fire. "Perhaps you do not understand your situation, humans. You have trespassed in our space. You have activated ancient technology without permission. Your very existence was unknown to us until today. These are all reasons for concern." Jinwoo nodded seriously. "You're absolutely right, Your Majesty. This is a concerning situation for you. If I were in your position, I would be worried too. An unknown species suddenly appearing in my territory would definitely require investigation. Yet you do not seem concerned for yourselves. Should we be? You've been nothing but polite to us so far. Admiral Crixtel treated us fairly, you agreed to see us personally, and no one has threatened us directly. These all suggest you're reasonable people." The Emperor walked down from his throne. each step making the floor ring like a bell. When he reached the humans, he loomed over them easily 3 times Jinwoo's height. "I could destroy you with a thought," he said quietly. "Yes, sir, I believe you could," Jinwoo replied. "Your technology is clearly far beyond ours. But that would be wasteful, wouldn't it? We might be more useful to you alive than dead." "Useful how?" Hyun-soo cleared his throat softly. "Your Majesty, we couldn't help but notice that your technology seems to focus heavily on military applications. That's perfectly sensible for a space empire, but we might be able to offer perspectives on civilian applications that could be beneficial." "What sort of perspectives?" "Well, for instance, that beacon we accidentally activated. Our scans suggest it was using a power source we don't recognize, but it was incredibly efficient. If that same technology could be applied to civilian power generation, you could probably reduce your energy costs significantly." The Emperor stared at Hyun-soo. "You analyzed our technology?" "Just the beacon, Your Majesty. And only the parts we could understand, which wasn't much. But the efficiency ratios were remarkable. Far better than our fusion reactors." "You have fusion power?" "Oh yes, for about 150 years now. It's not very efficient compared to what we saw in your beacon, but it works well enough for our needs." One of the aliens near the throne made a choking sound. Emperor Zeftos turned to look at him. "Speak, Counselor Yexstar." "Your Majesty," the alien said in a shaking voice, "our intelligence reports suggested this species was primitive, pre-industrial. If they have fusion power, then our intelligence was wrong," the Emperor said calmly. He looked back at the humans. "What other technologies does your species possess?" Jinwoo thought for a moment. "We have interplanetary travel, obviously. Artificial intelligence, though, not very advanced. Medical technology that can cure most diseases and extend our lifespan significantly. We've done some genetic engineering, mostly to eliminate inherited disorders. We have computers, global communications, advanced materials science. Nothing too exciting, really." "Nothing too exciting," repeated the Emperor slowly. "Well, compared to what we've seen here, no. You have faster-than-light travel, artificial gravity, energy weapons, translation technology, and power sources we can't even understand. We're clearly centuries behind you technologically." So-min raised her hand slightly. "Your Majesty, if I may ask, how long have your people been spacefaring?" "Over 50,000 years." "Ah, that explains it then. We've only been in space for about 200 years. We'll probably develop technology like yours eventually, but it will take time." The Emperor looked at his counselors, then back at the humans. "You speak as if your eventual technological development is certain, isn't it?" asked Jinwoo. "I mean, assuming we don't destroy ourselves first. Technological progress seems to be a natural result of curiosity and necessity. Your people, obviously, figured it out. Other species probably have too." "Other species?" Hyun-soo pulled out a small device and projected a holographic star map. "We've identified several solar systems in our local area that show signs of industrial activity. We assume they're inhabited by intelligent species like yourselves. We were planning to make contact with them eventually, once we developed better space travel technology." The map showed dozens of systems marked with different colored dots. Many of them were systems the Veltar Empire knew to be inhabited by their enemies. "You have mapped our enemies' territories?" Admiral Krixtel asked. "We've mapped systems that show signs of space-based industry," Hyun-soo corrected. "We don't know anything about their political relationships. Are they your enemies?" "Several of them are, yes." "That's unfortunate. Conflict is so wasteful. Though, I suppose when you're dealing with interstellar distances, misunderstandings are probably common." Emperor Zeftos sat down heavily on his throne. These humans spoke about galactic politics the way his children spoke about playground games, with casual interest, but no real concern. "Do you not fear conquest by these other species?" he asked. "Not particularly," Jinwoo said. "If they wanted to conquer us, they probably would have done it already. The fact that they haven't suggests either they don't know we exist, they're not interested in conquest, or they're waiting for something. Any of those scenarios gives us time to prepare. Prepare how? Technological development, diplomatic preparation, resource allocation. The usual things, I suppose. Though we're hoping diplomacy will work better than military preparation. A new voice came from the entrance to the throne room. Your Majesty, forgive the intrusion. Everyone turned to see another human walking into the room, accompanied by a group of very nervous-looking Veltar guards. The new human was older than the others, with gray hair and a calm expression. Min Ho Yoon, Your Majesty, the man said, bowing politely. Diplomatic officer from the Earth vessel, Soul Promise. I apologize for arriving unannounced, but we detected our colleague's ship in your territory and came to provide assistance. Emperor Zeftos looked at Admiral Krixtel. How many humans are there? The new ship has a crew of 12, Your Majesty. It appeared at the edge of our sensor range about an hour ago and has been broadcasting diplomatic messages. Min Ho approached the throne, pulling a small bag from his belt. Your Majesty, I've brought gifts as a token of friendship between our peoples. He opened the bag and removed several objects. Mathematical proofs for some problems our scientists have solved, artistic works from our culture, and detailed star charts of our local region of space. He handed the star charts to Admiral Krixte. 3 months had passed since the humans first arrived, and Emperor Zeftos was receiving reports that made him more uncomfortable each day. Tell me again about the situation on Mordak 7, he said to his intelligence chief, Counselor Velnath. Velnath consulted his crystal tablet. The human doctor, Sujin Han, arrived there 18 days ago on a small research vessel. The Mordak colony had been suffering from the Red Death plague for over 30 years. Previous medical attempts had failed completely. And now, the plague is gone, Your Majesty. Completely eliminated. Dr. Han worked for 16 hours a day for 2 weeks straight, barely stopping to eat or sleep. She created a cure using local biological materials and equipment the Mordak already had. Emperor Zeftos rubbed his crystal forehead with one of his forehands. What did she want in return? Nothing, Your Majesty. The Mordak offered her their highest honors, land grants, and a fortune in rare minerals. She declined everything. She asked only for samples of local bacteria to study. Bacteria. Yes, Your Majesty. She seemed more excited about the microorganisms than about saving 2 million lives. The Emperor looked at another report. What about the power crisis on Keflos? Resolved, Your Majesty. The human engineer Tai Hyung Lim redesigned their entire planetary power grid over a single weekend. Energy efficiency increased by 400%, and they now generate enough surplus power to export to neighboring systems. What did he want in return? Access to their materials science library. Your Majesty, he spent 3 days reading about metal alloys and seemed perfectly happy. Emperor Zeftos set down the reports and looked out the window of his palace. In the distance, he could see one of the small human research stations they had somehow built without anyone noticing. It was studying the local star's radiation patterns, and the humans running it had politely asked if they could share their data with the Empire's scientists. The data had been incredibly useful. The humans had discovered 3 solar flare cycles that Veltar scientists had missed, which allowed them to predict and prepare for dangerous radiation events. Your Majesty, Velnath continued, I have more concerning reports. More? The humans now have research stations in 17 different systems within our territory. They never asked permission to build them. They simply appeared. How many humans are we talking about? Approximately 200, spread across 43 different ships, all small vessels, all engaged in scientific research or what they call humanitarian aid. They've solved the food shortage on Krexpa, eliminated the mineral poisoning in the Yoltan system's water supply, and somehow fixed the atmospheric problems on New Veltar that our own engineers have been working on. For decades, Emperor Zeftos stood up and began pacing. What do our military commanders think about all this? They're terrified, Your Majesty. The Emperor stopped pacing. Terrified? Of scientists and doctors? Yes, Your Majesty. Commander Yelnax sent a report yesterday. He said, and I quote, they fight no battles, yet win every encounter. They never threaten anyone, yet everyone wants to please them. They ask for nothing, yet receive everything they need. I do not understand how to fight an enemy like this. Enemy? The humans haven't shown any hostile intentions. That's what terrifies the commanders, Your Majesty. They don't know how to respond to beings who solve problems instead of creating them. A communication alert sounded. Emperor Zeftos activated the holographic display which showed Admiral Crixtel on the bridge of his flagship. Your Majesty, we have a situation. What now? A human exploration fleet has entered the outer territories. 12 ships, led by someone called Captain Nayan Song. They're requesting permission to conduct scientific surveys. Have you granted it, Your Majesty? The outer territories are our most sensitive border region. If the Kron Federation discovers we're allowing aliens to operate there, what do the humans want to study? Admiral Crixtel consulted his own reports. Dark matter concentrations, gravitational anomalies, and what they call unusual energy. Signatures. They say the region is scientifically fascinating. Emperor Zeftos thought for a moment. Bring Captain Song to the capital. I want to speak with her myself. 2 days later, Captain Nayan Song stood in the same throne room where the first humans had been questioned. She was a tall woman, with short black hair and the same unsettling calm that all humans seem to possess. Captain Song, the Emperor began, you want to study our most sensitive border region? Yes, Your Majesty. The gravitational effects we're detecting from that area suggest some very interesting phenomena. We think there might be a black hole, binary system, or possibly something even more unusual. You're not concerned about the military implications of operating so close to enemy territory? Captain Song looked genuinely puzzled. Military implications? Your Majesty, we're scientists. We study things, we're not soldiers. But your presence there could be seen as provocative by our enemies. Only if they don't understand what we're doing. Would it help if we shared our findings with everyone? Science should be for the benefit of all intelligent species. Emperor Zeftos stared at her. You would share military intelligence with our enemies? We wouldn't be gathering military intelligence, Your Majesty. We'd be studying astrophysics. If you're worried about security, you could send observers with us to make sure we're only doing what we say we're doing. Admiral Crixtel leaned forward. Captain, what would you do if you encountered enemy ships while conducting your research? Say hello, I suppose. Offer to share our data with them too. Scientists from different cultures working together usually produce better results than scientists working alone. The Admiral looked at the Emperor with an expression that clearly said, I told you they were terrifying. Captain Song reached into her bag and pulled out a thick folder. Your Majesty, I brought something that might interest you. It's a document. We call First Contact Protocol 847C. She handed the folder to a guard who brought it to the Emperor. When he opened it, his crystal eyes widened. This is extensive. It covers accidental contact with established galactic empires, Your Majesty. We developed it after our first meeting with your people. It includes guidelines for peaceful integration, methods for avoiding cultural misunderstandings, optimal gift-giving strategies for 17 different species types, and templates for mutual benefit agreements. Emperor Zeftos flipped through the document. It was over 2,000 pages long and covered scenarios he had never imagined anyone would think to plan for. You created this in 3 months? Oh no, Your Majesty. We've been working on first contact protocols for over 50 years. We just adapted the existing templates to fit your specific situation. You planned for contact with us specifically? Not you specifically, but empires like yours. Large, militarily powerful, territorially organized, with advanced technology and complex political structures. You fit the pattern we designated as Type 7 Galactic Empire. How many types are there? 17 major categories with subcategories for each. We've identified most of the likely species types we might encounter and developed appropriate interaction strategies for all of them. Admiral Crixtel asked, what if you encountered a species that didn't fit any of your patterns? Then we'd develop new protocols. That's what the research teams are for. We learn, we adapt, we improve our methods. Emperor Zeftos closed the document and looked at Captain Song for a long time. Captain, may I ask you a personal question? Of course, Your Majesty. Are you afraid of anything? Captain Song thought seriously about the question. Yes, Your Majesty. I'm afraid of making mistakes that harm innocent people. I'm afraid of missing important discoveries because I wasn't careful enough in my research. I'm afraid of cultural misunderstandings that could damage relationships between species. But you're not afraid of us? Why would I be? You haven't given me any reason to fear you. You've been polite, reasonable, and helpful. You're clearly intelligent and capable people. Working with you has been a pleasure. After Captain Song left, Emperor Zeftos called an emergency session of the High Council. When all the counselors had assembled, he stood before them with the human protocol document in his hands. We have a problem, he announced. The humans, Your Majesty? Asked Counselor Velnath. Yes, but not the problem we thought we had. They're not invaders. They're not conquerors. They're not even really explorers in the way we understand the term. Then, what are they? They're gardeners, the Emperor said quietly. They're going around the galaxy planting seeds of improvement wherever they go. They solve problems not because they want something in return, but because they can't stand to see problems go unsolved. Counselor Yexdar raised a crystal hand. Your Majesty, surely that makes them harmless. No, Counselor, it makes them the most dangerous species we've ever encountered. They're conquering us through competence. They're making us dependent on their solutions to problems we didn't even know we had. But they're helping us. Yes, Emperor Zeftos said, looking out at the human research station again. That's exactly the problem. In space above the planet, Captain Na Yan Song's ship received a message from the exploration vessel Sol Bright. The captain was Hanju Li, one of the humans' best diplomats. Na Yan, how did the meeting go? Very well, I think. Agent Croven of the Veltar Intelligence Service had been trained for deep cover missions behind enemy lines. He had infiltrated the Kron Federation, the Siltar Republic, and even the mysterious Voidwalkers. But nothing had prepared him for trying to spy on humans. The problem was that they kept trying to help him. Agent Croven called Dr. Subin Park from across the laboratory aboard the human exploration vessel Busan Horizon. Could you hand me that scanner? I want to show you something interesting. Croven had been posing as a Veltar scientific observer for 2 weeks now. His cover story was that the Emperor wanted first-hand reports on human activities. This was true, but what the humans didn't know was that he was really there to find their weaknesses. So far, he had found nothing but more reasons to be terrified. What have you discovered, Doctor? He asked, handing her the device. We've been analyzing the energy readings from that nebula cluster you mentioned. Look at this. She showed him a display covered in complex mathematical equations. The pattern suggests there are at least 15 different civilizations in this region of space, all using different types of power generation. Croven stared at the screen. The humans had identified 3 civilizations that Veltar intelligence didn't even know existed. How did you determine this? Each civilization has a different technological signature, different elements in their exhaust emissions, different frequencies in their communications, different patterns in their energy consumption. It's like being able to identify different types of flowers by their scent. Dr. Park pulled up another display. And look at this. We've been mapping the gravitational effects of their spacecraft movements. We can predict where their major trade routes are, which systems are most heavily defended, and even estimate their population densities. You've mapped their defenses? Well, we've mapped the concentrations of artificial mass that suggest military installations. We're not interested in military intelligence, but it's impossible to study gravitational anomalies without noticing when someone has built large structures in space. Croven felt a chill run through his crystal body. The humans had accidentally gathered more strategic intelligence in 2 weeks than his entire service managed in years of dedicated espionage. Dr. Park, he said carefully, what do you plan to do with this information? Share it with everyone, of course. This kind of data is useful for safe navigation. No one wants to accidentally fly into someone else's territory. You would share it with potential enemies? Dr. Park looked confused. Why would they be enemies? We don't even know who they are yet. They might be perfectly nice people. That afternoon, Kroven sent an encrypted message back to Veltar Intelligence Headquarters. These beings have mapped our entire region of space in detail. They know the locations of installations we thought were secret. They are sharing this information freely with anyone who asks. Recommend immediate review of all security protocols. The response came back within hours. Continue observation. Report any signs of military preparation. Kroven almost laughed. Military preparation? The humans thought war was a waste of time. The next day, he was in the ship's main laboratory when Captain Nayeon Song announced that they had visitors. Through the observation windows, Kroven watched as another human ship approached. This one was different from the others. Larger, more heavily built, and with what looked suspiciously like weapon ports along its hull. That's Admiral Woojin Kang's flagship, Captain Song explained to her crew. The Incheon Dawn. It just finished its shakedown cruise. Kroven listened carefully as the human crew discussed their new ship. It was called a dreadnought, which sounded military, but they talked about it the way other species talked about research facilities. Agent Kroven, Captain Song said, would you like to tour Admiral Kang's ship? It might be interesting from an engineering perspective. An hour later, Kroven was floating through the corridors of the most advanced warship he had ever seen. Except it wasn't really a warship. This is our primary laboratory complex, Admiral Kang explained as they walked through a section the size of a small city. We have facilities for astrophysics, biological research, material science, and cultural analysis. The living quarters can house up to 5,000 researchers and their families. Families? Kroven asked. Oh yes. Long-term deep space missions. Work better when people can bring their loved ones. We have schools, parks, recreational facilities, even small farms. The idea is to create a complete community that can operate independently for years at a time. They passed through what Admiral Kang called the diplomatic section. It had meeting rooms designed for dozens of different atmospheric requirements, translation facilities that could handle hundreds of languages, and guest quarters that could be adapted for almost any known species type. This is very comprehensive, Kroven said. It has to be. When you're making first contact with unknown civilizations, you never know what you're going to need. Better to be overprepared than to cause offense through ignorance. Finally, they reached what Admiral Kang described as the defensive systems. Kroven expected to see massive weapons, shield generators, and armor plating. Instead, he saw the most sophisticated sensor array he had ever encountered. Point defense systems designed to stop debris and meteorites, and what looked like medical facilities. Where are your weapons? He asked. Admiral Kang looked puzzled. Weapons? Why would we need weapons? You called this a dreadnought. In our language, that means a heavily armed warship. Oh, I see the confusion. We use the term to mean a ship that fears nothing, not a ship that destroys everything. Incheon Dawn isn't afraid of anything because it's prepared for everything. We can handle any diplomatic situation, any scientific challenge, any cultural misunderstanding. But what if you encounter hostile aliens? Then we help them figure out why they're hostile and try to solve the underlying problem. Hostility usually comes from fear, resource scarcity, or cultural misunderstandings. All of those are fixable issues. That night, Kroven sat in his guest quarters writing another report to his superiors. The humans have built what they call a dreadnought, but it is not a weapon of war. It is a weapon of peace so sophisticated that I do not know how to describe it. They have solved every problem of long-term space exploration, diplomatic contact, and cultural integration. If they chose to use this technology for conquest, no known civilization could stop them. The response came back immediately. Clarify, are the humans planning military action? Kroven stared at the message for a long time before responding. No, they are planning to help everyone whether they want help or not. This is far more dangerous than military action. 3 days later, Kroven was present when the humans made a discovery that changed everything. Dr. Subin Park was analyzing energy readings from a distant star system when she suddenly went very still. Captain Song, she called, you need to see this. The entire crew gathered around her workstation. The display showed a star system that looked normal on the surface, but the energy readings were unlike anything they had seen before. "That's not natural," said Chief Engineer Dongmin Choi. "Those energy patterns suggest some kind of massive construction project, something the size of a small moon. Could be a space habitat," suggested Communications Officer Yan Wuhan. "Maybe we found another civilization." Captain Song studied the data. "Agent Croven, is this system in your territory?" Croven looked at the coordinates and felt his crystal body go cold. "No, Captain. That system belongs to the Kron Federation." "Interesting. The energy patterns don't match what we've seen from other Kron installations. This is something new." Dr. Park ran more detailed scans. "Captain, I don't think this is a space habitat. The energy output is too concentrated and the gravitational effects are wrong. This looks more like—" She trailed off, staring at the display. "Like what, Doctor?" "Like a weapon. A very, very large weapon." The laboratory fell silent. Finally, Captain Song spoke. "Agent Croven, I think we need to inform your Emperor about this. If the Kron Federation is building weapons on this scale, it could affect the balance of power in this entire region of space." Croven nodded, but his mind was racing. The humans had just discovered the Kron Federation's most secret project, the one that Veltar intelligence had been trying to find for over a decade. They had found it by accident while conducting routine scientific surveys, and they wanted to warn his people about it. "Captain," he said slowly, "why are you willing to share this information with us? Your people could use it to gain advantage in negotiations." Captain Song looked at him as if the question didn't make sense. "Agent Croven, if the Kron Federation is building superweapons, everyone in this region is in danger. That includes Earth. We all have a common interest in preventing galactic wars. You would risk making the Kron Federation angry with your people? Better than letting them surprise attack your empire. Wars are wasteful. They destroy resources, kill people, and prevent scientific advancement. Everyone loses in a war." That night, Croven sent his final report to Veltar intelligence. "Mission complete. I have learned everything I need to know about human intentions. They are not planning to conquer us through military force. They are not planning to exploit us here for resources. They are not planning to—" 1 year after the humans first stumbled into Veltar space, Emperor Zeftos stood in his palace looking out at a transformed galaxy. The view from his window now included 3 human research stations, 2 joint Veltar human manufacturing facilities, and a diplomatic complex where representatives from 8 different civilizations met regularly to discuss trade agreements and scientific cooperation. His crystal body had lost some of its luster over the past months. The stress of trying to understand humans had taken its toll. "Your Majesty," announced his aide, "Ambassador Ji-Hai Park has arrived for your meeting." Ambassador Park entered the throne room with the same calm confidence that all humans possessed. She was Captain Jinwoo Park's sister, and she had the same unsettling ability to make the impossible seem reasonable. "Your Majesty," she said, offering a polite bow. "Thank you for agreeing to see me." "Ambassador Park, I trust your journey was comfortable." "Very much so. The new jump gates your people built with human efficiency protocols have cut travel time by 60%. Very impressive engineering." Emperor Zeftos gestured for her to sit in one of the chairs that had been specially designed for human visitors. "Ambassador, I asked you here because I have a question that has been troubling me for months. I'm happy to help if I can, Your Majesty. What do your people really want?" Ambassador Park looked genuinely surprised by the question. "I'm sorry, Your Majesty, I don't understand. In the past year, humans have solved problems across 17 different star systems. You've eliminated diseases, improved our technology, increased our efficiency, and helped us establish peaceful relations with 6 civilizations we've been fighting with for centuries. You've asked for almost nothing in return. We've gotten quite a lot in return, Your Majesty. Scientific knowledge, cultural exchange, new materials and technologies to study. It's been very beneficial for us. But that's not substantial. You could have demanded territory, resources, military alliances. You could have used your superior technology to force concessions from us. Instead, you give us gifts and ask permission to help with our problems." Ambassador Park considered this for a moment, sipping the tea that had been prepared for her. It was a blend created by human botanists and Veltar agricultural specialists working together. "Your Majesty, may I ask what you think we should want? Power, territory, resources. The same things every other species wants when they encounter new civilizations. But we already have access to all of those things. We have influence throughout this region of space because everyone trusts us to solve their problems fairly. We have access to territory on dozens of worlds through our research agreements. We have access to resources through our trade partnerships." She paused, setting down her teacup. "As for power, Your Majesty, what could be more powerful than being the species everyone comes to when they need help?" Emperor Zeftos felt that familiar chill that came whenever humans said something that sounded reasonable, but felt dangerous. "You're saying you've gained everything you could want through helpfulness? It's more efficient than conquest, Your Majesty. When you conquer people, they resist, they rebel, they try to sabotage your efforts. When you help people, they invite you in, they share their knowledge, they ask you to help with bigger problems. And if they don't want your help, then we wait until they change their minds. People usually do, eventually. Problems have a way of getting worse if they're not solved." Ambassador Park reached into her briefcase and pulled out a thick document. "Speaking of help, Your Majesty, I have a proposal from the Human Colonial Administration." She placed the document on the table between them. Emperor Zeftos looked at it with growing alarm. "What is this?" "A formal alliance proposal, Your Majesty. A mutual defense pact combined with a comprehensive technological and cultural exchange program." The Emperor picked up the document. It was even thicker than the first contact protocols had been. "How comprehensive?" "Very. We're proposing joint research facilities in 47 star systems, combined military exercises to improve readiness against external threats, shared governance protocols for disputed territories, and integrated educational programs to help our species learn from each other." Emperor Zeftos flipped through the proposal. Every page contained detailed plans, resource allocations, timeline projections, and contingency protocols. It was the most thorough document he had ever seen. This would integrate our civilizations almost completely. Only in areas where it would be mutually beneficial, Your Majesty. We're not proposing to change your government or your culture. We're proposing to make both of our civilizations stronger through cooperation. And if we refuse? Ambassador Park looked puzzled. Then, we don't implement the alliance, Your Majesty. Though I should mention that preliminary discussions with the Kron Federation, the Siltar Republic, and the Mordak Collective have been very positive. They're all interested in similar arrangements. The chill Emperor Zeftos felt turned into something close to panic. You've offered the same deal to all of them? Modified versions, yes. Each civilization has different strengths and needs, so each alliance is tailored specifically for them. But the basic principle is the same. Mutual cooperation for mutual benefit. You're organizing the entire galaxy into a network of human-allied civilizations. We're organizing the galaxy into a network of cooperating civilizations. Humans just happen to be good at facilitating that kind of cooperation. Emperor. Zeftos set down the document and looked directly at Ambassador Park. Are you trying to conquer the galaxy? Your Majesty, if we wanted to conquer the galaxy, we would have done it already. We have the technology, the resources, and the strategic advantages necessary for military conquest. But conquest is wasteful and inefficient. She leaned forward, slightly, her expression serious. What we're doing is much more ambitious than conquest. We're trying to help every civilization in the galaxy reach its full potential. We want to eliminate wars, solve resource shortages, cure diseases, and advance scientific knowledge for everyone. That's impossible. Your Majesty, a year ago you would have said it was impossible for humans to exist. 6 months ago you would have said it was impossible for your empire to have peaceful relations with the Kron Federation. 3 months ago, you would have said it was impossible to eliminate the Red Death Plague. Those are individual problems. What you're describing is A very large problem with many interconnected parts, but still just a problem. And humans are very good at solving problems. Emperor Zeftos stood up and began pacing around his throne room. Ambassador Park, what you're describing would change everything. The balance of power, the nature of interstellar relations, the way civilizations interact with each other. Yes, Your Majesty, it would change everything for the better. But what if we don't want things to change? What if we're comfortable with the way things are? Ambassador Park was quiet for a long moment, considering her answer. Your Majesty, with respect, the way things are includes constant warfare, resource conflicts, technological stagnation, and millions of preventable deaths from disease and poverty. Are you really comfortable with that? The Emperor stopped pacing. You're saying we don't have a choice. You always have a choice, Your Majesty. But the choices are, accept help in solving your problems, or watch everyone around you accept help while you fall further and further behind. That's not really a choice at all. No, Ambassador Park said calmly. It's not. 6 months later, Emperor Zeftos stood in the same throne room, but it looked very different now. The walls had been redesigned using human architectural principles to improve acoustics and lighting. The crystal formations had been rearranged to create better energy flow. The whole room somehow felt more comfortable and efficient. He was no longer alone in the room. Councillor Velnath was there, along with Admiral Crixtel and several other high-ranking officials. They were reviewing the latest reports from across the Empire. The efficiency improvements are remarkable, Velnath was saying. Energy production is up 400%, food production has tripled, and our manufacturing capabilities have increased beyond all previous projections. What about military readiness? Asked Admiral Crixtel. Better than ever. The joint training exercises with human forces have improved our tactical capabilities significantly, and the early warning systems they helped us install have already prevented 2 surprise attacks by Voidwalker raiders. Emperor Zeftos nodded. Everything they were saying was true. The Empire was stronger, more prosperous, and more secure than it had ever been. His people were healthier, more educated, and happier. And yet he felt like he had lost something important, though he couldn't say what. Your Majesty, Velnath continued, the humans have submitted another proposal. They want to establish a permanent research facility in the Outer Territories to study the dark matter concentrations there. Have you reviewed the proposal? Yes, Your Majesty. It's thorough, well-planned, and would provide significant benefits to our scientific programs. I recommend approval. Emperor Zeftos looked at the faces around him. All of his advisors were smiling. They were happy, confident, optimistic about the future. When was the last time he had seen his advisors look like that? Approve the proposal, he said finally, as his staff left to